Welcome everyone. Welcome to the assessment office hours. Thank you for joining this week once again, April 29th. We are here today to share some topics that have been coming up in communications with districts in the last couple of weeks related to remote proctoring, our remote summative administration, and then our in-person administration, excuse me. We are going to also include some important reminders this week about special populations. As always is the case, please use the question feature of the GoToMeeting, and we will address any questions via text throughout the meeting or via voice at the end. Don't forget to mute your microphones and be aware that we are recording this. And then finally, the PowerPoint is the PowerPoint slide is in the handout section. There, I see it there as a PDF if you need it. So welcome. Here we go. We will, as usual, leave time at the end for questions. Our content is not as intensive as it has been in the last couple of weeks, so we will have plenty of time. Okay, first off, our assessment staff here on the call, Deirdre Ducharme and Janet Stuck, we are joined by today. Deirdre and Janet work on our special populations, and Jeff Craig is out there as well somewhere. Jeff works on our NGSS and CTOS, and my name's Abe Christ. I'm a bureau chief in the performance office. Also on our team here today is Christy Alberino, who works on Smarter Balance and all our appeals related during testing. Also, Michelle Rosado is on the call, who is our PM for the Connecticut SAT School Day. She's also handling the behind the scenes to make the webinar a success. And then finally, Marlene Shamroy, who when you contact the office often is the one you're speaking with. So also on the calls from Cambium, Amber Benlian, Jen Cho, and Marie Musumeci. Here is the help desk for Cambium, the number and the email. It is that time of year. We are aware that there's lots going on for testing. Keep in mind that the help desk is open from 7 to 7. For questions for in-person and remote testing. We have seen, because of the ramp up in testing numbers, we have seen more issues obviously with the increase in testing. Please contact them, they're doing a super job. Really the line in which you need to contact them as opposed to us would be really the more technical side, the operational side of testing. But you can also just try one or the other, and if you're landing in the wrong place, we'll redirect you. So how about testing progress? Slowly but surely, today's April 29th, we are moving through the testing window. We have had a total of 68,914 summative tests taken in total, and you can see the total breakdown here. This is as of this morning at 5 a.m. Remember, the testing window does close on June 4th. At the moment, there are no plans for an extension, so the June 4th means June 4th. Keep that in mind. The number of weeks for testing is limited, and it's next week or this weekend is mega ready. So here's our agenda today. We won't spend too much on that. Some of these things we're reiterating things that have been mentioned in the past. Some of them are new items because, again, as I mentioned on the first slide, things that have come up in the last week frequently from communication either to the help desk or to our office at CSDE. Okay, so first off, if you're looking for previous office hours, you can access the recordings and the PowerPoints on the CSDE Comprehensive Assessment Program portal under the Resources drop-down menu. Just click Training Materials. You can find the office hours for April 8th and April 15th, which really, we spent a lot of time talking about remote testing, and then also for the 22nd as well, where we still touched on remote testing, but started to venture down the road of the other topics for summative assessments. So first off, one item we wanted to cover this week is the rigorous coursework letter that had been sent out sent out last week and this week. On April 24th, superintendents received a communication regarding letters to families regarding students with potential for rigorous coursework. Historically, the CSDE had sent these letters directly to students in 10th and 11th grade who had potential to succeed in rigorous courses like dual enrollment classes offered by colleges and university, AP courses, or IB program courses. This year, the State Board of Ed sent letters to the parent guardian of the student, followed by another one that is addressed to the student, encouraging to consider enrolling in rigorous coursework. We received a lot of questions on this week, so we wanted to mention this to you. Again, if you need to have something in writing, you can see the explanation that went out to the superintendents on April 24th. The identification of students was based on their Smarter Balanced assessment results from middle school, primarily in 8th grade, but as well partially from 6th and 7th. And we use that, which is a shift, just because research indicates that the Smarter Balanced assessments in middle school are a very strong indicator of student success in high school. Additionally, using the Smarter Balanced results has allowed us at CSDE to identify an additional 15,000 students statewide. Keep in mind too that this list of students will be available through EdSite Secure very soon, if it's not already up actually this week. Okay, switching gears to the administration. I know we wanted to touch on rigorous coursework communication because that was a popular topic this week, but administration expectations. So once again, for Smarter Balanced and NGSS, we want to remind you about the different locations for testing. Fully in-person and hybrid students must be tested in person. We've been getting tons of questions about remote, but don't forget all the students who are in-person testers. Then the next order of hierarchy would be fully remote students who can be tested in person should be tested in person. So that would be students who could potentially come into the school or come into a district location to be tested in person. And then finally, the remote option is for students who must be tested following the remote administration procedures just because they are remote learners. And finally, what about the alternate assessments? As a reminder, we've been saying this the last, I think, 4 office hours. There is no remote proctoring tool for the alternates, and we are strongly recommending that they be administered in person. In the event that a student is fully remote, it would be possible to administer the test only if a trained teacher is available in person to administer the alternate assessments in a one-on-one situation. Continuing on with administration details and proctor training, we have heard from several districts, from many districts, the challenges managing the scheduling and the proctoring of test sessions, particularly as it relates to staffing. We wanted to encourage districts to also remember that staff who are, in addition to certified teachers, can, as long as they're properly trained, can administer the Smarter Balanced and NGSS assessments. Don't forget that proctors can test students across grades or subjects in one session, and also students may test staff. Students can be tested outside of their teachers. There's a lot of districts trying to maintain the teacher-student connection in terms of the administration, but don't forget, if it's okay, or it is okay to have other staff members administer tests besides the teachers. And then finally, consolidation of groups. If you have small groups of, for instance, in-person testing where you might only have 8 to 10 or 12 students in a test session, it's okay to try to bump that up just to create larger test sessions to free up staff for possible remote testing. Don't forget, we have a remote testing training course that's highly encouraged for TAs administering the remote assessments. It's about 30 minutes in length. And don't forget, for proctor training, the test administration manual for remote testing is a critical document this year just because there's so much new. Don't rush, you still have time. You do have until June 4th. Keep in mind, though, that is approaching soon, as I mentioned before. And where are you going to find the resources to support remote testing? Again, this is the Connecticut Comprehensive Assessment Program portal. You're going to, from the resources menu, you're going to hit remote administration. You're going to find all the resources. Here's a snapshot of the resources available for interim, summative, the training resources, webinars and videos, and the training course as well. Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Janet Stuck, and Janet's gonna take us through some more slides related also to proctoring and then to touching on special ed issues as well. Janet?
Thank you. So we wanted to touch base with you and stress the importance of active monitoring for your proctors. It's even more critical when we're talking about remote testing. So we want to make sure that you are using a secure classroom management system to engage your students initially, kind of give them their session ID, their SACID number. We also have videos available to meet that gap between when you're using the secure classroom management system and the student has to access a secure browser, which closes everything. So we strongly recommend that you access the video in the remote session training materials. The teacher has to read the script to the students at the time of testing. So this is in Appendix D of the Remote Proctoring Test Administration Manual that Abe already mentioned earlier. And again, students will have everything closed, so they need to be walked through that process. We encourage you to consider using the practice test as an orientation for students so they are familiar with what's expected of them. It's a nice opportunity to share this with parents as well so they know what's coming. And a reminder, students' cameras must remain on continuously throughout the entire test session. If for some reason the camera malfunctions or is turned off for any reason, the testing session should be stopped until that can be remedied. And again, when you're training your students, you're going to remind them that no electronic devices can be used outside the testing device as well. So next slide, please. One of the critical pieces that you're going to make sure that you have in place is for your remote students, you need to select the remote proctoring indicator and set it to yes. And that is based upon each testing session. So if you have a student who's fully remote and will be tested remote, go ahead and set it for all subject areas. But if you have a student that will be coming in or vice versa, you want to make sure you're attending to that remote proctoring indicator, and there is a way to set it for all students. You can upload it, and directions for this are on page 25 of the Remote Proctoring Summative Test Administration Manual. Next slide, please. Many of the calls we're receiving right now are related to our alternate assessment system. So these are resources that we've shared that we hope that you'll access. And one of the critical pieces that we're finding now is that teachers who are administering the alternate need to make sure that they have accessed the required training, which is online under the alternate assessment card on the portal. Those teachers will access the training and they have to pass the required assessment within that in order to be considered a trained TEA. Once they're a trained TEA, they can access the assessment to administer it. They can access the required directions for test administration to administer the assessment. They can also submit scores for the science, the CTAS, into the data entry interface. And also they can submit the eligibility form. Next slide, please. So this is another way of looking at that process. This is a graphic that you can share with your teachers to remind them of their responsibilities. And we want to remind you that this training occurs every year to capture nuances that have changed within the system or expectations. And again, this has been the procedure for several years now, but we're still finding that teachers forget or don't remember that they have to take the training each year, which allows them to administer the assessment and complete the required pieces. Next slide, please. This slide I want to really help you focus on because this is where the majority of our calls are coming now. So once the teacher is trained and submits the alternate assessment eligibility form into the data entry interface, if they submitted it by February 15th, they're good to go and they can access the tests. We're finding now that teachers have not submitted the form by February 15th and are doing so now. So those forms are considered late. So if your teachers are submitting a late form, there's an additional step where they must call the CAI help desk in order to request that the alternate indicator be set to yes. If the alternate indicator is not set to yes, then the students will only see the standard assessment, which for these students, it would be inappropriate. And so we want to also remind teachers for this situation to look at the assessment carefully, because we do have instances where students sit for an entire standard assessment that's inappropriate for them because that alternate assessment indicator is not set to yes, and the teacher is not really focused on the assessment itself. So make sure those alternate assessment indicators are set to yes before administering the assessment, because then you will be accessing the correct assessment. Next slide, please. So if you're not sure, you can look in the student demographic area and you'll see the alternate assessment indicator in the demographic area. And it will be either set to yes, or it will say no or blank. And that's how you know that you're all set to administer the assessment. And you can see in the graphic you're seeing the date started. So you'll see the Connecticut alternate assessment eligibility form here. If the date started is after February 15th, a call should have been made to the help desk to request the indicator be set to yes. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, there are many special populations resources available to you and to help you make decisions and guide your processes. And they are available on the CAI portal under the resources drop-down menu from the top. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Janet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, usually we wait till the end to answer questions, but let's go off the agenda a little bit today. We'll take a couple right now. We appreciate you typing them in, and please keep them coming. So, and even if they're slightly off topic, we love to see them. So please send them in. The first one, it relates to is there a time frame for when to pause a test if a student turns off their camera? Is it immediate pause? So that's a great question. Without a camera, monitoring cannot be done. Monitoring is critical for remote testing, for in-person too. So we would encourage you to, as soon as there's a camera technical problem or a student turns off their camera, that the test is paused, just so the student can advance and there isn't an opportunity to there could be a breach in security. So as quickly as it can be done, it should be done. There was another question that I think I managed to delete here, but I read it before I did that, where it was similar in the sense that what is the recommendation if you have a remote student who can't come in, and so they're testing at home with the remote test, and there's like a continued effort to assess the student, but there seems to be video problems that are recurring. Obviously, we would encourage you to reach out to the help desk at 844-202-7583 to resolve those. However, some folks have been asking, at what point do we, move on? We understand that students are in school to learn, and that is the most important thing, and that students, it's doing no one any good if they're spending hours trying to get the testing done due to technical problems. So we encourage you to use your professional judgment to move on if necessary. As a reminder, with the waiver in place this year, districts are not going to be penalized for participation issues. So things like that, we encourage you to move on if it's necessary. Next question is there a tentative timeline release for Lost Links scores? At this point, the Lost Links scores can actually, and Janet, I might lean on you for a second here, so in case I don't fill in the gaps as well as I should. But at the moment, you can actually access scores assuming tests were taken using the on-demand reports. In addition to that, in addition to the on-demand reports, we've been looking at timelines, and it's possible that we will have our systems go for a late June-ish release. However, and I'm going to put a big asterisk next to that because I really want to qualify that. Our systems will be go, but we're going to be doing a lot of additional analysis next year or this year due to the remote testing and just to the change in the nature of testing. So assuming everything checks out, it could be as early as June, but really that is written in pencil if I've ever seen it. Janet, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so you can use your on-demand reports as preliminary information to help guide decisions you have to make for planning for next year or guidance. But in terms of the letter home to parents, we would probably encourage you to wait or send a preliminary letter home to parents as needed.
Thanks, Janet.
Mm-hmm.
Jen, I'm gonna send this your way if you don't mind. I know Jen Cho is on the line from Cambium regarding the test session in advance, and is that session ID good for the duration, or will I need to set up a new test session when we go back to the test later in the day?
It should be good for the duration that you set it up for. So if you set it up for 4 days, then it should be good for all 4 days. If you set up for 1 day, it should be good for that day.
Okay, thank you. I see Deirdre answered that as well. Thank you, Dee. Okay, I'm planning to do a remote session at the same time as the in-person testing next week. Doesn't matter which session I start first, in person or remote. If my colleagues, if I'm saying something wrong, please chime in too. But really, it's up to you. I mean, don't forget that we are highly recommending not doing simultaneous sessions as a proctor, just because of the fact that it becomes almost impossible to monitor appropriately. So if that's referring to like a simultaneous administration, we are highly not recommending that, just because of the potential for issues. Other than that, really, it's up to you. I don't know that I have any special advice in terms of which to start. Does Jen or Janet, do you have anything to add, or Deirdre? No. Okay, it looks like we've.
No, I was going to say I think you covered it, Abe.
Okay, thanks, Janet. Okay, so we are going to move on now. We have a few more slides. You can keep on dropping your questions into the question box. We love to see them, so please keep them coming. So a couple more things, reminders. Appeals. We've seen a lot of appeals already coming in. One of the biggest ones seems to be, oh my goodness, I've administered the summative assessment in lieu of the practice test. Please let your colleagues know who are administering the tests, who are proctoring the test, that they are selecting the right test for the student. Again, we can undo a lot of things with the appeal system, but it does cause a lot of headaches when, like for instance, an incorrect test is selected and potential, like a live NGSS test is selected, and that's only realized halfway through the test, as opposed to the practice. Another biggie is accommodations. Please be mindful of accommodations. We've had a lot of students or requests for appeals because the student did not get the correct accommodations. Don't forget, they have to be checked and tied for all students prior to testing. In the event of these irregularities, Christy Alberino is really managing all of them that are coming through. It's likely that in situations like this, we're going to ask you for some information, student's grade, an explanation, the teachers involved, a small description, so on and so forth. So be mindful of these things. Again, the appeal system is there for a reason. We understand things happen. It's the nature of testing. However, some of these things, like for instance, the lack of accommodations that are provided, or the fact the different tests are being mixed up, summative is being administered instead of a practice, those are really avoidable. So just be mindful of those things. Okay, these are some remote proctoring policy questions. And I think we've seen, if you've attended the office hours in the past, excuse me, you probably have seen these questions, but boy, oh boy, we have had these questions coming in quite a bit, so we want to reiterate. Can I start a test in one location and complete it in the other? You can for Smarter. So for a Smarter Balance, you can cross locations, but remember for Smarter, if a student moves from remote to in-person, be sure to update their remote indicator for testing to no and tied, meaning they are in-person testers. But again, they can continue taking that same test. However, the big but here is the answer is no for NGSS. There are different forms across remote and in-person for science, so it's imperative that testing be completed in the mode it was started for NGSS. Again, if it happens, it just means the student's going to start the test all over again, basically. But to eliminate that, try to complete testing in the mode that it was started. Next, are students are required to use a secure browser for testing? Again, this question is coming up again and again. Yes, all student devices are required to have the secure browser or mobile app installed for summative testing. Then, can a TA administer a remote and in-person session simultaneously? As I've touched on in the last slide, it is possible when administering the interim assessments. However, is not recommended for summative just because of the monitoring necessary for both environments. It's super challenging. We've actually haven't had too many instances where we've heard of people doing this, but this question has come up. We understand it because it would streamline things in terms of your administration. You could pack in more students into test administration, but it becomes super tricky trying to administer multiple tests across in-person and remote. And then finally, can students located in person be administered tests with the remote indicator on using the remote administration tool? Simply put, no. The CSDE, we are closely tracking where students are taking the test for reporting purposes. Students who are in a room with a proctor in the same room, regardless of their mode of learning, are tested as in-person tested, and students who are not in the same space as a proctor, for whatever reason, are tested as remote students, and the remote indicator must be set to yes for these students. Okay, and this is our last slide. We've touched on the numerous videos that are out there the last few weeks. We've mentioned them on our first webinar back on April 8th, but this was out, I believe, last week too. We have released the webinar, the video that covers that how students log in to take a test. So it covers that period in which a student enters their SACID, their session ID, and their first name. They have to go through the video check. They have to select the test. They have to wait for approval, and then they reemerge with communication with the test proctor. This video was built with students in mind in this case. So please be mindful. We understand that this is one of the trickiest parts of remote testing, getting students across that point where they have no communication with their teacher or test proctor. So this video is out here. It's on the portal under the remote training resources, webinars, and videos. We've had good feedback on it too for those districts that have used it. They found that it's been helpful to have students navigate that time period. Okay, we are to the question slide. We're going to go back here. So I'm going to just read them verbatim here. Do 95% of the students need to take assessments this year? I think this is a reference to the participation rate. Again, due to the waiver, in the past, the participation rate came into being a factor for school categorization. Due to the waiver, we are not doing school categorization this year, so districts will not be penalized for if they don't hit the 95. So next question is, what is the guidance? It's a good one. What is the guidance when a student's internet goes down while they are doing testing? Again, that would be an instance where you would pause the testing. And we've had cases. We've had, it is online testing. It's going to happen for remote learners. We're working across bandwidth that isn't managed by the school, and so there stuff like this comes up. So we would recommend pausing the test. You can always go back once things are reestablished to complete testing. And just because, excuse me, keep in mind, and I think everybody's aware of this, that the test is really almost saved in real time. So if that were to happen, you're not losing any of the entries up to that point. Okay, and I think the next one is a thank you for answering one of the other questions. So thank you for that. Good question. So we have another question. If a student is having Wi-Fi issues on their Chromebook, are they allowed to use their phone to have their camera on so that a proctor can watch them in the Google Meet while taking the assessment? Some students have service on phones, but not on their devices. That's a good question. We appreciate that workaround. We've really been trying to, just so there's a standardized administration, stick with we're using just the camera that is used through the Cambium system to do the monitoring. That way, really, it's pretty obvious. If the camera's working, testing can go on. If it's not working, it can't go on. Just so we don't go down the kind of the slippery slope of the multitude of other ways that you could conceivably do this. The other trick with this is if a student is using a phone, they might naturally have an opportunity to get on the internet to check answers and use the phone as a resource to help with test questions. So we're really encouraging the use of just the camera, and if there's an issue with that camera, then testing should be paused. Good question, though. Thank you. So any more questions? Those are great questions. I'll wait here a minute or two or 30 seconds. Any of my colleagues have any points they want to add based on the questions or anything else, please chime in. Okay, well, seeing no more questions, Don't forget, we do the office hours weekly, same time, same place, every week. We will be doing this throughout testing until June 3rd. We appreciate you taking the time to attend. We know your days are busy, and so thank you. We hope that this is a support for getting students tested. I also want to thank my colleagues at CSDE, Janet, Deirdre, and Michelle. Thank you for attending, and also thank you to our colleagues at CAI, Marie, Jen, and Amber. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Oh, we have one more. I'll take one more question. Do students get the results right away, or if not, and when? For Smarter, we're still planning on releasing results after the administration. We've never had on-demand reporting. When exactly, we haven't released. Again, like LAS, we are waiting until we are gearing up for a potential release, but that's dependent on a lot of analysis work that has to occur. We are also, one question that has come up, one question that has come up is if ISRs are being still produced in the fall, and that is correct. You will see ISRs in the fall. Again, this is dependent on analysis between now and then, but we are gearing up for that. So I see another question that I know that person emailed me today about. I will email you back on that one because that's a tricky one. Basically there's a nightly upload between PSIS and TIDE, but I want to I will get back on that one. And then someone wants to unmute to ask a question. Sure.
They can't raise their hand, so hold on, let me let them do that. All right, let's see.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, let me just find, oh, hello, Heather. Let me unmute you. All right, Heather, go ahead.
Thanks, Michelle. I just had a quick follow-up question that's easier to say than to write in the chat. Earlier, someone asked about how long you wait before pausing the test if a remote student's camera is not, not working or not in view. I've administered remotely the NGSS assessment, and I noticed that when kids are very close to done, their camera goes off because I can't quite tell that they're finishing yet. Like they might be at 93% or something like that. And then because NGSS has like a scenario with multiple questions that all get submitted at once, that last set of questions, it kind of quickly goes to where their status says review, like they're reviewing their questions, and then it goes to submitted. And I was hesitant at first to pause them, thinking maybe they're done and it's just the lag of the question. I just wanted to ask if that's something you've seen before, or if you have any other advice on that. In particular, it was on the grade 11 NGSS.
Thanks, Heather. I appreciate the question. Jen, do you have any thoughts on that one? Jen, Joe?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about it. So basically the camera's off on that last question, right? And so, I think it's a timing. I think if you think that they've, I don't want to, I'm hesitant to say much about it because I know every situation is different and stuff, but that last 7% could be that last item. So if you think that, they just turned it off because they were done and stuff, then I think I would just, you wouldn't have to pause it. I think I'd just let it go. But if it was something that they turned off their camera halfway through the test or periodically on and off, I think that's where I would be more cautious of what was going on.
I did a little bit of both. I paused a student, and then when that happened to the next student, I didn't pause, and I just kind of waited to see what would happen, and it seemed within 30 seconds the kid was done. So yeah. I kind of just tried both ways because I wasn't certain.
Yeah, I think this one is going to be use your best judgment because every situation is different. You're not actually in the room to see. But then also, if you decide not to pause and you saw something fishy, that we could, be open to a discussion of an appeal or something like that too. So if you decide that the action you took wasn't maybe the best one based on actions that were taken afterwards, we can definitely discuss what may be the next options we have for the student.
Thank you, that was very helpful.
Yeah, Heather, thanks for the question. And then Jen, thanks for allowing me to put you on the spot on that one. So, I mean, I think Heather, what we'll do too is we'll do a little check on our end. And then if we need to alert the districts because of some ambiguity in terms of the testing finish, we'll send out a note to the DAs if it's a concern that has to be addressed. But thanks for the question. All right, I'll try this again. I think we've answered all the questions. Again, thanks again from the CSDE team and the CAI team. Thank you. Thanks also for attending. Stay safe. And if you have any other questions, ctstudentassessment@ct.gov, please email us, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.